You're ready with your instrument? Yeah, your instrument. You can clap. You can clap. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Yashodanandana Pajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Pajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Pajajana Ranjana Shodanandana Pajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachar Yamuna Tira Vanachar Yamuna Tira Vanachari Muna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Mr. Pad Paramahansa Padavajikacharya Ashtotarata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajikacharya Ashtotarata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the Assam devotees. All glories to the Assam devotees. All glories to the Assam devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, so here's the problem. Is that and we'll hopefully get it fixed soon. Okay. So, according to my records, we're on page 16. Yeah. Second paragraph. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 14th day of August 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in the introduction on page 16, second paragraph, beginning the English word religion. Page 16, everyone on the same page? Okay. We'll continue reading from there. The English word religion is a little different from sanātana-dharma. Religion conveys the idea of faith, and faith may change. One may have faith in a particular process, and he may change this faith and adopt another. But sanātana-dharma refers to that activity which cannot be changed. For instance, liquidity cannot be taken from water, nor can heat be taken from fire. Similarly, the eternal function of the eternal living entity cannot be taken from the living entity. Sanātana-dharma is eternally integral with the living entity. When we speak of sanātana-dharma, therefore, we must take it for granted on the authority of Sripad Ramanujacharya, that it has neither beginning nor end. That which has neither end nor beginning must not be sectarian, for it cannot be limited by any boundaries. Those belonging to some sectarian faith will wrongly consider that sanātana-dharma is also sectarian. But if we go deeply into the matter and consider it in the light of modern science, it is possible for us to see that sanātana-dharma is the business of all the people of the world, nay, of all the living entities of the universe. Non-sanātana religious faith may have some beginning in the annals of human history, but there is no beginning to the history of sanātana-dharma, because it remains eternally with the living entities. Insofar as the living entities are concerned, the authoritative Shastras state that the living entity has neither birth nor death. In the Gita, it is stated that the living entity is never born and he never dies. He is eternal and indestructible, and he continues to live after the destruction of this temporary material body. In reference to the concept of sanātana-dharma, we must try to understand the concept of religion from the Sanskrit root meaning of the word. Dharma refers to that which is constantly existing with a particular object. We conclude that there is heat and light along with the fire. Without heat and light, there is no meaning to the word fire. Similarly, we must discover the essential part of the living being, that part which is his constant companion. That constant companion is his eternal quality, and that eternal quality is his eternal religion. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. Okay, just let me give a time out for a minute. So this is good. So we're all settled here. Unless another lady arrives, well then I guess I can sit over there. We have quite a gap here. I'll try not to speak to this point. Anyway, I think we're okay probably for tonight. All right, so so here Prabhupada is emphasizing the idea of dharma as opposed to religion, because these words carry certain connotations over time. And as you're probably aware, in Western history and history in general, there have been various beliefs that people have. Most prominently, we have Christianity and Islam and Judaism and Hinduism, is noted. And sometimes they get a kind of, like Hinduism is kind of a catch-all phrase, because it includes the Mayavadis, what we call the impersonalists. It includes the demigod worshippers. It may even include the tantrics. All kinds of people who practice some faith in India will be lumped into this catch-all phrase of Hinduism. And that's why Prabhupada avoided it. In fact, he told us, he informed us that the word Hindu itself is not really a Sanskrit word. It's not. It was given by the Muslims, and on the other side of the Sindhu River, all those were Hindus, and so it started out from the beginning as a kind of a catch-all phrase. It doesn't have that much significance. If you want to know who a Hindu is, well, okay, the Vaishnavas are Hindus, and the Shaivites are Hindus, and the Mayavadis are Hindus. So what do they believe? All different things. So, but Sanatana-dharma is different. The idea Sanatan is a very powerful one. It means, as Prabhupada explains, doesn't have a beginning or an ending. Uh-oh, we don't want to have that. Is that a Bhagavad Gita? Yeah, you don't want it to be on, where you sit. Yeah, that's on in the book. Oh boy, now you're down to one. Okay. So, Sanatana means eternal. And as Prabhupada points out here, the living entity is defined as eternal right in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. You'll have, okay, now we need another station. Well, no, because a lady may walk in, set up another one. We have so many, we have so many seats and so many books and so many stands, so we should be okay. All right, let's go with that for now. I think that'll probably be the max. Yeah, he's all set. So anyway, oops, wait a minute. You're sitting next to the ladies. Yeah, you got to move over. Because we want to kind of keep a little separation. It'd be the ladies and the men. Just move up one station. That'll probably do it. Yeah, we'll be okay. Okay, here they are. Oh, okay. Bhakta Mark is here. All right, we have more books over there. All right. Oh, wait. You can see why in school there was always a punishment if you were tardy, right? You have to stand in the corner or something? Go to the principal's office? Okay. All right, you can move over a bit. All right. All right, back to our theme here. So on page 16 of the introduction, see? Antonella has arrived. Her first day back from her trips, she can tell us about. There's a spot over there. We need a Gita from over there. Okay. He's giving him a Gita, and then we'll replace it. Yeah, but that's a different book. You're holding a different book. There's too many differences. I know, because I made most of them. Okay. Is everybody here? Anyone out there now? Okay. Okay, resuming. So Sanatana-dharma, as opposed to the word religion, Prabhupada starts out with where we read the English word religion is a little different because it means faith, and faith can change. But Sanatana-dharma is inherent with the soul, because the soul is eternal, and so Sanatana-dharma is eternal. And the very word dharma, I think I explained this last time in this meeting, the Sanskrit language is very interesting. The words are based on a little root word. And there's many words built on that root, and dharma is one of them. And it's very close to us because it has to do with like giridhari. The word dhari has the same root as dharma, interesting enough. So the root is dri, and dri means that which is the essential nature of something. And therefore everything has a dharma. I like to point out that chair you're sitting on has a dharma. You sit on it and it supports you. If you sit down on it and it collapses, that so-called chair was a so-called chair. It wasn't the real chair. It wasn't meeting the dharma of a chair. You see? And the fan. If the fan goes around and it cools, okay, it's meeting its dharma. If you press it, it doesn't go on, or the blades fall off. It's faulty. It's not really meeting its dharma. So then the question becomes: what is the eternal religion? What is the inherent dharma of the soul? That can never be removed from the soul. It's inherent in the soul, and the dharma of the soul. Every single living entity, and there are uncounted billions and trillions of them, both within the spiritual world and in the material world, is to serve. And you can analyze, those who are not serving God, what are they serving? They're serving the demands of the senses, the demands of the mind. You see. In other words, the living entity in the embodied soul, the souls in the spiritual world are not embodied. They have a spiritual body, but that body is pure soul, just like Krishna's body. There is no difference between Krishna's body and his soul. He doesn't have a soul. He's solid soul, solid spirit, you see? So it's a big mistake. There's even a verse, a little phrase. How's it go? Deha dehi vibhagoyam neshade vidyate kvachit, which means deha dehi. Dehi is the body, dehi is what's in the body. You see, dehi, and the deha. Every word, every letter counts. So dehi vibhago. A difference between the body and the soul is never to be seen in the Ishvara, in the Supreme Lord. That's a big mistake. Krishna is solid soul, and in the spiritual world, so is our body. Our body is made of pure spirit. Now, we're a tiny little particle of spirit within a big body contraption made of matter. Right? We're pervading the body with our consciousness. The soul can pervade the consciousness, but we are not the body. That's the first lesson of the Bhagavad Gita. That's not our identity. So then you have the concept of sat and asat. You have the word sanatan, which corresponds to sat. Sat means that which exists or that which is eternal. The material world and everything made of matter is asat. It's constantly changing. That's why you have this metaphor, the Bhava Sagara, the ocean of commonly birth, old age, disease, and death, which means change. Our body has always changed. The body we're each sitting in today is different from the one yesterday. And those days gradually build up until you see, some picture of someone you haven't seen in 30 years. I was looking at some pictures of devotees I know and wait a minute. Yeah, there's a change, big change. And there's a big change in me too. But not really in me, but in the body that I'm embodying. You see what I'm saying? And this is the problem with Maya consciousness instead of Krishna consciousness. The eternal soul is identifying with the ever-changing body, and it's incompatible. And that's why material life is always disappointing, because you're trying to gain a position that you've lost from leaving the spiritual world and impose it in the spiritual world, and it's not to be. There's no position of eternal happiness and security in the material world. That's obvious, because there's always destruction is always threatening. Change is, and ultimately the body dies, and you get another body. Now, for many people in the modern age, they don't believe in reincarnation. They think that this is all there is, this bodily life. And so the conclusion therefore is, let me get as much enjoyment as I can, as fast as I can, right? Because I know that it's going to be over. Let me, and subconsciously, let me do those things and enjoy so that I can forget about my mortality. I can think I'm an eternal enjoyer. But it always leads to disappointment. And it's a shock. Just like this Maui thing that happened. Because I've never been to Hawaii. But the ethos of Hawaii, it's this idyllic land, you can get there, the temperature's always nice, you get the beaches, it's always like you're on vacation, even if you have to work a little bit, isn't it? I mean, that's what I always thought it was. I never visited. But here you have this horrific, conflagration that comes and destroys this Maui, a good part of it. And there are devotees there. I haven't even heard how they're doing. But it's such a shock. This is what material life is all about. Oh, this shock. I thought I had everything under control. Now I got this diagnosis of, terminal disease. What is that? Now I have to make a bucket list or whatever they call it. And you can imagine, the terror and the anxiety if you don't have any assets and understand this philosophy. That okay, the time is here. I'll tell you a story, a history. Some of you were here, a few of you. I don't know if anyone of you were here. I think you were here, Prakash, when Rajendranandana Prabhu came. Rajendranandana was an old devotee. He had been with Prabhupada in the 70s. He worked in the Gurukul. Those who know that's a school, in Texas. That was his first engagement. He had a good educational background. He was intelligent. And he did that for years. When the school moved from Texas, because we couldn't do all the things we wanted as a school, the state was coming down, no, you got to teach this, you can't, forget it. So they moved the whole thing to Vrindavan, and he also went there. He was there with Prabhupada, and, the few devotees who were there when Prabhupada actually left his body, and, left his physical body. And so he was a very experienced devotee, and he had a home here in San Diego. He set up here. He had a wife, a child, and everything. And so for years he would work. He had a job. He would go around to different fairs and sell stuff, and make enough money so he could spend 3 or 4 months in Mayapur every year. And there he was learning from, Jananivas, one of these twin Pujaris who were there from the 70s, very, very wonderful devotees. One of them passed from COVID during the time, So he would study him. He accepted him as a Shiksha guru, and he would learn advanced parts of Krishna consciousness, go on Parakram, and he was very beloved. So then he retired here in, I think, 2019, I think it was. He came and retired before the COVID, came. And he would give these wonderful classes. They're online. This is one of the great services that our friend Tapas did in Janardhan when they set up all these things. And we have these, and very learned. He would come, he would stay for class. He would have books here and there. He had really studied for the class and prepared, and and so he was giving the class and everything. And then at a certain point, we saw the COVID came. He didn't get COVID, but suddenly he had trouble with his back. And he told me, yeah, I had a chronic problem in my back, and so it was much harder for him to sit and, to like that. But it didn't get better right away, and then eventually he went to the doctor and learned that it was cancer, and it had spread. So he was, he had so many months to live, they say, Well, he didn't freak out, In fact, I wasn't with him all the time, but he was actually kind of jubilant about it, because he was ready. He had been preparing, and he gave him so many months, but he didn't want all those months. He kind of stopped eating, but he wasn't morose. He wasn't freaking out. He wasn't terrified. He had prepared, and our friend Mukunda Charan, most of you know Mukunda Charan. He stayed when the time was coming. I couldn't visit him because I had a serious sprained ankle, and I could hardly walk. I wasn't even visiting the temple at all, But I talked to him on the phone. And so when the end was coming, Mukunda was staying at his feet on the bedside. He stayed over 30 hours without sleeping, just sitting there, and encouraging him and so forth. And so he left in a very peaceful way. He had been working with one devotee on his business, for years, and he was a good friend. So he stayed with him for many hours. And at one point, they're lying there, the two of them in the room alone. Maybe it was late at night. And Rajendrananda woke up and he asked, who are all these people in the room? And it was just this one devotee, And so he asked him, oh, are they the good people? He said, yes, In other words, not the Yamadutas. He's seeing the representatives of Vishnu, coming down. They were attending him. And he passed very peacefully and joyfully. And a similar thing happened with our young devotee named Shamali. She was Parashakti's daughter. And Yamuna, I don't know if you know, they had a daughter when they were married. Anyway, she also, Yamuna later said that it was like she was just lying there very peaceful. She had hours of association with the Gurudev on the phone. He's in Vrindavan, but he would call her every day and spend an hour on the phone with her and encourage her and give her Krishna Katha and all these things. And he said it was just like she breathed out and the Vaikuntha plane came and it's gone. Now, I worked in a hospital for over a year before I joined. And I was an inhalation therapist, and I would go around and give oxygen, and I saw a lot of people die, and it wasn't like that. For the most part, they just sedate the people, because they're freaking out. And the TV's on all the time. It's not wholesome or anything. But there's so much fear and anxiety. They don't know what's going to happen, and everything. And it's because your whole life, you're not really prepared for it. But day one, when you come to Krishna consciousness, you say, yes, this is the whole point is, and we're going to come in the introduction here. Prabhupada gives a nice summary of Krishna conscious philosophy. The circumstance, he has no society yet when he dictated this. and the recording is still extant. You can hear him, you know. And so he had a reel-to-reel. Someone had given him a reel-to-reel tape recorder. You know, it wasn't one of these little things. And he learned how to use it. And so he didn't really have any followers at that time, so he spent hours dictating this, putting in what he thought was essential to have. If this is all he had, at least it'll be this record, you know. So we're getting a whole overview of Krishna consciousness. So he's giving us, basically now, back to our little text that we read, the idea of this is eternal religion, that which is inherent in the soul, means that it's good for everybody, every soul on earth. It doesn't matter what religion you were raised in or what, you know, and in America, many of the devotees joined, they had been Christian faith or whatever, you know, and most of them had questions about God that couldn't be answered. What does he look like? What, you know, all these type of things, you know, you can never give an answer unless you have, you know, these books. And so when they came in touch with Krishna consciousness and they're intelligent and they read the books and they get all of these detailed answers, you know, it's very attractive because they were raised with faith. There's someone out there. I was basically an atheist. You know, I came from a different route through yoga. You know, anyways, the whole story. I don't want to give my story, but I had to go through some wrenching experiences. You know, and my faith that there was no God, because I was raised as an Orthodox communist. It's a fact. I'll go into it sometime. My father would take down, he thought the FBI was after him. He would take down the book from the closet, Das Kapital, you know, which is the Bible. You know, he's Russian. He knows all about this. Virachandra. I swear. English translation of it. I think he wrote it in German. And he would read to me in the kitchen table. I'm like, you know, 10, 12 years old, you know. Yes, religion is the opiate of the people, right? Or the opium of the people. And then, but I was also taught this motto, you probably have heard of it, from each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. Have you ever heard of that one? See, he was, by the time he came around, the communism was not so strong. Anyway, this is one of the ideals of communism, that everyone will be situated, and they'll give what they can, you know, and the state owns everything, and they'll be provided with everything they need, you know, like that. When you think about it, that's kind of what Varnashram is. You know, everyone is working according to his abilities, and he's provided for. You read the Krishna book, and they had all of the sutras playing, all the music and everything, and afterward the princes and everyone, they gave their ornaments and clothes to the Sudras, you know, and they were provided for, you know, like that. Anyway, to come from that background to Krishna consciousness was a sea change, to say the least. You know, but I don't think I'm going to bloop at this point. You know, it's been 50 years, and I have faith that Krishna is there. So sanātana-dharma means that which is the inherent nature of the soul, and the soul is eternal. One of the verses we'll encounter in the second chapter, which is Krishna's beginning, when he begins his instructions, is this seminal verse probably quote all the time: Najayate mriyate vakadachan. Nayam bhutva bhavitama nabuya. Ajo nityak shastrato yam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. It's kind of as relative to an Upanishadic verse, which Prabhupada quotes in the purport. Gita is kind of sometimes called the Gita Upanishad. You'll see in the title page, because it summarizes all the teachings of the Upanishads in a concise form. So, the Jayate, never born, Namriyate, doesn't die at any time, the soul. The Jayami Vaga, Nayam Bhut Vabha Vida, they're not coming into being. It's not like there's new souls being generated all the time. We're just as eternal as Krishna is. When we say we haven't been created as such, we kind of emanate eternally from Krishna, like the sun rays from the sun. So that's what the second line, Nayam Bhut Vabha Vida Nabuya. Then, Aja, Nitya, we're unborn, eternal, ever-existing, primeval. We are not slain when the body is slain. Everybody is kind of slain. It may be by old age, some disease, some weapon, whatever it may be, but something happens that makes the body unworkable and it's dead. You know, but we don't die. Everybody dies. Everybody dies. Nobody dies. Wake up, and open your eyes. You're not that body or pure spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. We're trying to put it into Russian poetry, and we can put it on T-shirts. So that's one of the little ditties I came up with. But it's right, it's parampara. It's exactly out of the second chapter. So we want to learn, if we're intelligent, what is that sanātana-dharma? What is that process, a dharma that we can perform that will awaken our eternal nature and our eternal activities as spirit, rather than all of these material activities that ultimately are self-defeating and that don't help us to achieve the goal of human life, or the goal of life as a spirit, which is to end this practically seemingly interminable term of imprisonment in body after body after body after body. But what we should do is appreciate the great value of human life, as opposed to all these other life forms. They're also spirits. Every mosquito that's bit you, and every blade of grass out there, there is a spirit in there. And they're unfortunate because they can't really take this up. But we can help. Even when we are aware of these things, we can chant Hare Krishna, even to these trees and plants, and they'll benefit. Haridas Thakur recommends it, loud chanting, But especially, we should chant for human beings. That's why we go down to the beach or go downtown where people can hear. Because the sound vibration begins to awaken the soul. And ultimately the interest can be awakened so that they want to learn more. And then we got so many books, like this Bhagavad Gita. So if there's any discussion, we can tell. Okay, we have one question. It's applied.
Is there green color?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. They're both green. Just press the button.
Hare Krishna.
Hi, Bo.
2 quick questions. First, on page 16.
Yes.
Second paragraph, when he writes, we must consider in light of modern science. What exactly does he mean by considering sanātana-dharma in light of modern science?
Okay, those belong to some sectarian faith. But if we go deeply into the matter and consider it in the light of modern science, it is possible for us to see that sanātana-dharma is the business of all people of the world, nay, of all living entities of the universe. That's a good question. Well, when Prabhupada would always mention how Krishna consciousness is not just a faith, it's a science. And he would be referring there to the idea that there are certain processes that we undergo that are recommended by the Shastra. And that if you follow them, then the result is always there. Because we're conscious living entities. And therefore, if we hear this sound, if we chant it, even if we don't have faith, we're simply experimenting, it will have its effect. And if we continue to do certain activities and refrain from other activities, then everyone who tries it will experience a change in his consciousness for the better. So I think that's what Prabhupada is referring to here, is that Krishna consciousness is different from just a faith, in that it's not that it's all built, if you believe it, then you get the benefit. Faith is a foundation, but that there are activities that you can perform that will confirm your faith. And that's why we find in the 9th chapter, Rajavidya Rajaguya Pavatamidam Pratyakshapagamam Dharmyam. Here's the word dharma again, and pratyaksha means directly perceivable. The idea is that you don't have to believe, well, I hope there's a place in heaven. We can't really get a good description, but it's all based on hope and faith. But in Krishna consciousness, there are certain stages of revelation. In other words, you're experiencing it. And usually what you experience first is that there's kind of a release of anxiety and depression, and there's a certain experience of joy and pleasure from sources that you didn't know existed before. And there's nothing unwholesome about it. Yes, okay, I got so high, I took this drug, that drug, But the point is, there's a payment for that. You're doing something to your brain, and and sooner or later, sometimes very soon, you find that you're simply taking that drug just to get back to be able to function, rather than for pleasure, and you're hooked. It's kind of pleasure in the mode of ignorance, as opposed to pleasure in the mode of pure goodness, which is nourishing for the soul, and there's no downside. I've been chanting this mantra for 50 years, and it's ever fresh as it always was. And what have I lost? Nothing. I haven't wrecked my brain or anything. Rather, it become much more functional. It's a wholesome process. So these things can be seen in every case, and that's why Prabhupada was so happy to see, after a few years of the movement, everywhere where some sincere devotee went to try to practice, whether it's some foreign country or a place you would never imagine in Africa, everyone responded. There was some people, not everyone, but some group responded, and it was able to be taken up by anyone who sincerely did it. So that's as opposed to having a faith, a religion tied to a certain place, tied to a certain race, and sort of a sectarian. That's the idea. I think that's what he's referring to.
I made one other question.
Yeah.
Because English has a beginning, it has a middle where it evolves, and presumably, like all vernacular languages, it too will have an end. Is it right to say that there's a sort of essential asat-like quality in English, and thus it'll always only approximate what we can experience in Sanskrit, or is that going into too far?
I never thought of that. It's true that Sanskrit is spoken in the spiritual world, but there's also kind of a Prakrit you learn. It's kind of a colloquial Sanskrit in Vrindavan. That's spoken. I don't know if you know. There's actually some verses in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that are in that language. And there's a devotee who was staying with me for a few years ago named Mukunda Dutt. I saw him at the Rath Yatra, who took that in college. There was a course in this Prakrit. He took Sanskrit as well as this other thing. So as far as languages like English and so many others, and there are many of them, you can see the Sanskrit roots. There's so many words. The word name, nama in Sanskrit. Come on, there's so many others. So the English language is you cannot do in English what you could do in Sanskrit. You can't express it as beautifully, But that's not the essential thing. Because when Prabhupada, part of his great mission that he did was to give us these books in English. They were extant for a long period, hundreds, even thousands of years in Sanskrit language. But we don't speak it, so we're blocked off from that. So the BBT, the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, which is to produce the books in English and then in all these other languages. I visited that facility in Korsnäsgård. That's in Sweden, the book production, where they have so many translations going on, in all different languages. So that, the ideas cannot be perfectly given in these other languages, but close enough, to give you quite a good approximation of what's meant. And then Prabhupada so meticulously and with such effort, I'm telling you, you won't find this anywhere in any other translation of Bhagavad Gita. The original Devanagari and its transliteration, so you pronounce it, and word-by-word meanings, and then the translation. Because then you can trace just how it comes, they're not distorting it. So that, we're a little bit crippled with the English language, but English is a pretty, it's like a big vacuum cleaner, English. There's the French words, there's the Italian words, even these Sanskrit words. I looked up the word Kshatriya in an unabridged dictionary. This is from like 25 years ago. And it had already come into the language, believe it or not, because the English occupied India, so they took a lot of words, Now you have karma, dharma, so many different things. So you watch. The most important words, English will eventually encompass them. Oh, this is an English word now. All right, let's go on. Where are we? Are we on the second? When Sanatana Goswami asked? or non-Sanatana religious faith? I've kind of lost my place.
That's where we were.
On 17?
17.
The first main paragraph. All right. I'll try to be more... I'll keep track. When Sanatana Goswami asked, interesting, Sanatana, he's talking about sanātana-dharma here. When Sanatana Goswami asked Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the swarup of every living being, the Lord replied that the swarup, or constitutional position of the living being, is the rendering of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we analyze this statement of Lord Chaitanya's, we can easily see that every living being is constantly engaged in rendering service to another living being. A living being serves other living beings in various capacities. By doing so, the living entity enjoys life. The lower animals serve human beings as servants serve their master. A serves B master, B serves C master, C serves D master, and so on. Under these circumstances, we can see that one friend serves another friend. The mother serves the son, the wife serves the husband serves the wife, and so on. If we go on searching in this spirit, it will be seen that there is no exception in the society of living beings to the activity of service. The politician presents his manifesto for the public to convince them of his capacity for service. The voters therefore give the politician their valuable votes, thinking that he will render the valuable service to society. The shopkeeper serves the customer, and the artisan serves the capitalist. The capitalist serves the family, and the family serves the state in the terms of the eternal capacity of the eternal living being. In this way, we can see that no living being is exempt from rendering service to other living beings, and therefore we can safely conclude that service is the constant companion of the living being, and that the rendering of service is the eternal religion of the living being. And that's why the Dharma is there. When that Dharma is misapplied, because the original object of service is Krishna, and in the spiritual world, that's what everyone is doing. They're serving Krishna, and loving, with love, and he in turn is reciprocating that love. And that is perfect harmony there. But as soon as some living entity decides he doesn't want to do that anymore, he wants to be Krishna, basically, instead of serve Krishna, then you have to leave. Just like if you're living in the temple here, as in the ashram, and suddenly you decide, well, I'm going to start doing a little business out of this room, and making some money. No, that's not the mood. You have to go out. Everyone has to serve, and as a harmonious team for the pleasure of the deity. And then if you do that, you find yourself very happy, and you make friends, let's do the service together. That's what's so great about these festivals. You read about the history of Rath Yatra with Jayananda, how Jayananda in the first Rath Yatra in San Francisco, the first few Rath Yatras. And he would always engage others. And that engagement was great because they'd be, doing something on the cart and he'd be preaching to them the whole time. And before the Rath Yatra is over, you have another devotee, or other devotees made. Jayapataka Maharaj became a devotee in San Francisco one year, probably 69, 68, something like that. And that was the time. I also came all the way from New York to visit San Francisco because I heard, that's where everything is happening. I wasn't a hippie yet. I was a communist, but I was also a young guy, so I drove all across the country. So I could walk around, in Haight-Ashbury and see what's going on. But I was a year late. I came in 68. If I had come in 67, that was the summer of love. I would have seen Prabhupada out in Golden Gate Park chanting Hare Krishna. But things had moved on after that. So I was late. But Jayapataka Maharaj came, and he was walking by, and they were building a cart. And Jayapataka said, hey, you know how to use a screwdriver or something? Can you help out here? And this was the mood, the hippie mood. He said, yeah, let's do stuff together, So he came in, and while he's working the screwdriver, Jayananda is preaching to him, and he became Jayapataka Maharaj. He has 50,000 disciples now. He's been in Mayapur for many, many years. He's a legendary figure in the movement. So this is how it works. So the verse Prabhupada is referring to here is very important, and it's not in Sanskrit, it's in Bengali. The question is, what is the eternal nature of the soul? Who are we eternally? And so he says, Jivera, the word Jiva, Jivera Swarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. That's the most important line. The second line is also important. Krishnera tatasta shakti bheda bhed prakash. In that one verse is like the basis of the whole movement practically. So the answer is, and it's coming straight from God, Krishna, in the form of Lord Chaitanya. So this answer is as authoritative as anything in the Gita. Jivera, of the jiva, swarup, the swarup. Now that's interesting because swarup means, rup is a form, but swarup encompasses not only the form but the function. In other words, we all have this eternal form, this nature, which includes the activity of the form, which is, as he says in the next part of the verse, Jivera, Krishnera Nityadas, eternal servants of Krishna. That each of us, in our own specific mood, or rasa, in our own specific form, and so forth. We all have that individual relationship with Krishna, just because he's God. So he can have an individual relationship, intimate relationship with billions and trillions of jivas. Whereas we can have an intimate relationship with a half dozen people, you know. So anyway, the second line is very important too. It means Krishnera tatasta shakti. This is part of the nature of the jiva. We are shakti, we're energy. Krishna is the energetic. We're the sunshine, he's the sun. It's an analogy. Krishnera tatasta shakti. Tata means on the margin. So we are marginal energy. It's not that we emanate from the marginal energy. We are the marginal energy. We're spiritual. We're spiritual. That's why we don't die, because we're pure spirit. So marginal means that we can be attracted to the material side or the spiritual side. And at every moment, we're kind of making that choice. We made our choice, you know, a long time ago. And now we're living with the consequences, which is birth, old age, disease, and death. So in order to get back to the spiritual world, we have to turn away from the material side and turn back again toward Krishna. We made a mistake a long time ago. So now we're rectifying that mistake. And Bheda Bhed Prakash is another, this is a very important concept. We're simultaneously one with Krishna and different from him. We're one with him in that we're also pure spirit. But we're different because we're infinitesimal. And therefore we have the unfortunate capacity and tendency to be overwhelmed, but covered by the external material energy. And we get fascinated with, and when we come to this material world, as Prabhupada said in the ninth canto, we take the form of Brahma first. So we have our wish, we're a big controller. But obviously not all Brahmas go back to Godhead. The Brahma that is our head of our Sampradaya, this is the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. And he has many teachings in the Gita, in the Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma himself. So, but Brahma can also be further entranced by the material energy, and then he can come down, and you know, even become subhuman, the living entity. So we want to get back to that original state of our eternal service to Krishna in the spiritual world, and that's what Lord Chaitanya came to give. He taught Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, as this is a little insight in this Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's 3 or 4 chapters of his teaching to Sanatana Goswami. And in his nice little book that Prabhupada gave, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, you can get the essence of those teachings right there. A very wonderful book. I had the great opportunity to work on that book for a couple of years. So I'm sorry we didn't get too far in the introduction. But maybe I can read one more paragraph here. Yet man professes, right? Yet man professes to belong to a particular type of faith with reference to a particular time and circumstance, and thus claims to be a Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, or an adherent of another sect. Such designations are non-sanātana-dharma. A Hindu may change his faith to become a Muslim, or a Muslim may change his faith to become a Hindu, or a Christian may change his faith, and so on. But in all circumstances, the change of religious faith does not affect the eternal occupation of the rendering service to others. The Hindu, Muslim, or Christian, in all circumstances, is a servant of someone. Thus, to profess a particular type of faith is not to profess one's sanātana-dharma. The rendering of service is sanātana-dharma. And that rendering of service is consummated when it's to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Factually, we are related to the Supreme Lord in service. The Supreme Lord is the supreme enjoyer, and we living entities are his servitors. We are created for his enjoyment, and if we participate in that eternal enjoyment with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we become happy. We cannot become happy otherwise. It is not possible to be happy independently, just as no one part of the body can be happy without cooperating with the stomach. It is not possible for the living entity to be happy without rendering transcendental loving service unto the Supreme Lord. All right. We're going to hold the next paragraph because I'll try to read a little more tomorrow. But there's so much, so rich, this introduction. But I'll give you a little poem. Now, some of you may not have heard this poem before, and even if you did, it's ever fresh, it's transcendental. This is the Kevalashtaka, 8 verses about the glories of the holy name. I'll give you one Sanskrit verses, but from the interest of time, I'll just do one of the Sanskrit. Madaram madarebhyopi mangalebhyopi mangalam. Pavanam pavanebhyopi Hare Namaiva Kevalam. Now, some of you may recognize that last line as part of a larger verse. The holy name is all it is. Of sweet things, it's the sweetest you will taste at any time. Of things that bring good fortune, it's the perfect paradigm. Of things that purify, it purifies most powerfully. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. From Brahma's realm atop the sky, down to the lowly grass, illusion reigns in Maya Devi's treacherous morass. The truth, the only truth, the name of Shri Hari. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. He's the guru, he's the father, he's the friend most true, and she's the real mother who most kindly teaches you to always hear and chant the holy name of Shri Hari. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Remember that our final breath may come at any time, no matter if we're old and sick or in our youthful prime. So young and old alike should chant the name incessantly. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Lord Shri Hari forever dwells wherever devotees, whose hearts are fixed on him and free of all impurities, uplift their voices high and sing his name in ecstasy. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Alas, what sorrow, what great pain, the worst calamity, for people to forget the holy name of Shri Hari. Although the name's a priceless gem, mere broken glass they see. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Just fill your ears to fill them with the name of Shri Hari. Just chant the name with all sincerity. Just sing the name, to sing the holy name eternally. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. It makes this world appear like bits of straw upon the ground. Resplendently it reigns supreme, divinity in sound. It's filled with transcendental bliss and peerless purity. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Inspired, that was the 8 verses. I wrote a 9th one. Inspired to glorify the holy name of Shri Hari, Shri Nilakanta wrote this hymn in Sanskrit poetry. I pray that those who hear this lowly version made by me will chant the holy name of Shri Hari in ecstasy. So let's try it. We're going to have a kirtan now and see if we can apply our instruction. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. We will convene again tomorrow. And tomorrow, since we're having such a big crowd these days, I have some old Vyasa Puja books. They're very rare now from 2005, 6, 7, 10, 11. I'm going to bring them over. And anyone who wants one, you can have it for free. We only printed about 500 of them, so they're collector's items now. Yeah. Hare Krishna. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.